The Korahans were a race of powerful aliens. They had conquered dozens of planets across the galaxy, each more advanced and dangerous than the last. When they set their eyes on Earth, they believed it would be an easy conquest. After all, humanity was nothing compared to the great empires the Korahans had crushed in the past. The aliens had watched Earth for years, studying its people, its technology, and its military. What they saw was a species divided, disorganized, and technologically far behind them. It seemed like there was no challenge at all. The Korans launched their invasion, coming in waves with fleets that filled the sky. Their ships were massive, their weapons devastating, and their tactics flawless. They didn't expect much resistance. They were wrong. The first wave struck on a quiet afternoon. The sky turned dark as the ships descended, casting long shadows over the earth. Cities across the globe were plunged into chaos. People screamed, governments panicked, and military leaders scrambled to organize a defense. But none of them knew what to expect. They had never faced an enemy like this. The Korahans advanced quickly, landing in major cities and obliterating anything that stood in their way. Humans tried to fight back with what little they had: guns, tanks, and jets, but their weapons were nothing compared to the alien technology. At first, the humans were overwhelmed, retreating as the Korans marched forward. The aliens believed the fight was nearly over, but they hadn't counted on one thing: human will. In the chaos of the battle, something unexpected happened. A group of human soldiers, led by a young officer named Sarah, managed to break through the Korahan forces. Sarah's team had no advanced weapons, no sophisticated technology, just sheer determination. They used the environment to their advantage. They set traps, outwitted the aliens, and fought with a fierceness that surprised even the Korans. They made the Korans believe that this planet, this species, was worth more than just a quick victory. As the first day of the invasion came to a close, the Korans took a moment to regroup. They had suffered casualties, which they had not anticipated. They had lost entire battalions in the fight. They had underestimated the human spirit. The aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. Humans, though outmatched in technology, had something the Korans didn't: the ability to adapt and fight back. But the aliens were not quick to admit their mistakes. They were proud, thinking their advanced weapons and tactics would soon crush the humans into submission. They sent in more waves, determined to wipe out any resistance. Yet, the humans kept fighting. The Korahans noticed something even more strange: humans fought differently than they expected. They didn't rely solely on technology or strength. They used strategy, unpredictability, and a relentless desire to survive. The Korahans had expected the humans to break under pressure. They expected the panic and fear to take over, but instead, the opposite happened. The longer the humans fought, the more organized they became. They began to take down alien ships, and even the most advanced Koran warriors were struggling to defeat the human soldiers. As the humans began to win small victories, a sense of unity began to spread. Groups that had once been divided by differences, governments, races, ideologies, now came together. For the first time, they realized they were all fighting for one thing: survival. The Korans had tried to divide and conquer. What they hadn't understood was that the humans' greatest strength lay in their unity. It wasn't just the military forces that joined the fight. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens began using their skills to build makeshift weapons, fortify cities, and sabotage alien technology. Humans had always been inventive, but now, in the face of an existential threat, their creativity was unleashed like never before. They started to turn the Koran's own technology against them. They hacked into the alien ships, disabling their systems and making them crash. They found ways to disable the Koran weapons, using their own resources to break the aliens' hold on Earth. The Korans, once so confident, began to realize their mistake. Every time they thought they had won, the humans fought back with something new, something unexpected. They had underestimated them, and now the tables were beginning to turn. The humans were fighting not just for survival, but for something greater: the future of their world. By the third day of the invasion, the Korans were on the defensive. They had lost several major cities, and their forces were stretched thin. The aliens began to retreat in certain areas, something they had never done before. The humans, emboldened by their victories, pushed forward, reclaiming land and cities one by one. The Korans' confidence was beginning to crack. They had expected to wipe out humanity in a matter of days, but instead they were facing a full-scale war. The Korans sent in their final wave of reinforcements, their most elite soldiers, armed with weapons of mass destruction. But even then, they could not prepare for the unexpected. The humans had learned, adapted, and were now fighting as one unstoppable force. The tide of war was turning. The Korans knew it, but they still held one final card to play. As Earth's resistance forces closed in on the Koran leadership, a new, far more terrifying alien fleet appeared on the horizon. It was their last chance to destroy humanity once and for all. As the final battle loomed, the fate of Earth rested on the shoulders of humanity's most unexpected weapon, their sheer will to survive. The Korans had underestimated humans from the very beginning, and now they were going to pay the price. The war between humanity and the Korans was far from over. After the first wave of the Koran invasion, humanity had proven its strength. They had fought back with unexpected ferocity, taking the aliens by surprise. But now, as Earth's forces prepared for the next phase of the war, a dark secret was about to be uncovered, one that could tear humanity apart from within. As the war raged on, a fragile alliance had formed between humanity and several alien species who were also threatened by the Korans. These alien allies species that had been watching humanity for years had secretly supported Earth's resistance. They provided resources, intelligence, and advanced technology. The alliance seemed strong, united by a common enemy. But what Earth's leaders didn't know was that one of their closest allies was hiding a dangerous secret. The Korans, despite their initial setbacks, were far from defeated. They had regrouped, and their forces were growing. With each passing day, they learned more about Earth's resistance and began adapting their tactics. The Korans were intelligent, ruthless, and calculating. They had their eyes on the humans' allies, knowing that breaking the alliance would be the key to their victory. But the Korans had no idea how close they were to succeeding. In the midst of the chaos, a human general named Marcus Stone began to notice strange things happening within their ranks. Supplies were going missing, and reports from their alien allies seemed off. It didn't take long for Marcus to realize that something wasn't right. He began investigating, quietly questioning the loyalty of their allies. But when he dug deeper, he discovered something far worse than he had expected. One of their own had been secretly working for the Korans all along. The traitor was someone no one had suspected: Captain Laura Thorne, one of Earth's most trusted military leaders. She had been serving as the liaison between the human forces and their alien allies. She was known for her quick thinking, her bravery in battle, and her calm demeanor. But behind the scenes, she had been feeding crucial information to the Korans, undermining Earth's efforts from the inside. Marcus was stunned. He had fought alongside Lara, trusted her with his life. The thought that she was a traitor seemed impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. Secret communications, stolen plans, and sabotaged military operations all pointed to her. Lara had been working for the Korans for months, feeding them Earth's military strategies and weakening the alliance at every turn. Her reasons, however, remained a mystery. Was she a double agent? Or had she been convinced by the Korans' promises of power? Marcus knew he had to act fast. The Korans were planning a massive assault on Earth's defenses, and Lara's betrayal had given them the upper hand. If the alien forces knew Earth's next move, they would crush the human resistance without mercy. But Marcus also knew that revealing the traitor too soon could cause chaos within the ranks. Earth's forces were already fragile, and the shock of betrayal could break them apart completely. He decided to confront Lara in secret, hoping to get answers before the situation spiraled out of control. He met her in an abandoned hangar, away from the eyes of the others. The air was tense, thick with the weight of the truth. Marcus didn't know what to expect, but he was prepared for anything. What he didn't expect, however, was the calmness with which Lara greeted him. "I knew you would find out eventually," she said softly, as if nothing had changed. "Why, Lara?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you do this?" "We trusted you." Lara's eyes flickered with something Marcus couldn't quite place. Regret? Anger? It was hard to tell. "You don't understand, Marcus," she said. "The Korhans. They promised me something that Earth never could. Power, safety, a future. You think you're fighting for survival, but all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. The Korhans are too strong. You can't win." Marcus was stunned by her words. Was she truly working with the Korhans out of fear? Or had she been manipulated by their promises? He didn't have the answers, but he knew he couldn't let her continue her sabotage. "I can't let you do this," Marcus said firmly. "You've already done enough damage. You're going to pay for this." Laura's face hardened, and for a brief moment, Marcus saw a glimpse of the cold, calculating person she had become. But then, she smiled a bitter, empty smile. "You don't know what you're up against. The Korhans have already won. All I'm doing is making sure I survive when it's over." Before Marcus could react, Lara activated a hidden device in her wristband. A signal was sent. The Korhans would be here within minutes. Lara had prepared for this moment. She knew her betrayal was about to be exposed, and she had arranged for her escape. Marcus acted quickly, lunging at her, but Lara was already one step ahead. She pressed a button, and a secret passage opened beneath her feet. Within seconds, she was gone, vanishing into the darkness. Back at the resistance base, Marcus rushed to warn the others. The traitor was gone, but her actions had already set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of the war. The Korhans now knew everything about Earth's defenses, and the final assault was already underway. As the clock ticked down to the inevitable clash, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Laura's betrayal had been just the beginning. There was more to this war, and far more at stake than anyone realized. The Korhans were closing in, and Earth's survival hung by a thread. The war between humanity and the Korhans had reached its breaking point. After months of fierce fighting, Earth's resistance forces had pushed back the invaders, but they knew they couldn't hold out much longer. The Korhans were relentless. They had superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and a strategy that was slowly squeezing humanity into a corner. It seemed like the end was near, but just when all hope seemed lost, a surprising discovery was made. Eli Carter, a young and resourceful soldier, stumbled upon something that could change everything: a strange, glowing artifact buried deep underground in the ruins of an old research facility. No one knew what it was, but it radiated power unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. Eli was part of a team tasked with scavenging the remains of the city for useful materials. But when he found the artifact, everything changed. The artifact was alien in nature, but it wasn't like the technology the Korhans had brought with them. It was ancient, older than any human civilization, and its power was beyond comprehension. Eli knew it was dangerous, but it was also the only hope they had left. When Eli brought the artifact back to the resistance base, the scientists and engineers examined it carefully. They couldn't decipher its origins, but they discovered something amazing. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a key. A key to something much bigger, something that could potentially defeat the Korhans once and for all. But the artifact's secrets were locked away in layers of ancient symbols and designs. Only a few humans had the intelligence and patience to crack its code. Eli, however, was not just a soldier. He had an uncanny ability to understand complex technology, even alien technology, and he became the one chosen to unlock its power. As Eli worked on deciphering the artifact, the Korhans began to prepare for their final assault. They had learned from their previous mistakes and were closing in on Earth's last remaining strongholds. The resistance had no choice but to continue fighting, hoping that the artifact would provide the edge they needed to hold their ground. But time was running out, and Eli couldn't shake the feeling that the artifact was more than just a tool for victory. It might also be the key to saving the entire planet. One night, as Eli worked alone in the lab, he finally unlocked the artifact's hidden secret. The power it contained was vast, enough to destroy entire fleets of Korhan ships. But as he studied the artifact further, he realized it wasn't just a weapon, it had the ability to manipulate reality itself. The Korhans had made a grave mistake by underestimating this power. They thought they could conquer Earth with their technology and superior tactics, but they hadn't realized that humans had something much more unpredictable: creativity, adaptability, and now, the power to change the very fabric of their world. The moment Eli activated the artifact, something incredible happened. The energy it released was enough to short-circuit Korhan technology, disabling their ships and weapons in the surrounding area. For the first time in the war, the Korhans were forced to retreat. Earth's forces, though still outnumbered, gained a brief but powerful advantage. But the artifact was not a simple weapon. Its power came with a cost. Eli realized that while it could disrupt the Korhan's technology, it could also cause massive environmental damage to Earth. The energy it released was unstable, and if not controlled, it could destroy entire cities, or worse, tear apart the planet itself. The Resistance was left with a difficult choice: use the artifact to defeat the Korhans, knowing that it could destroy everything they were trying to save, or find a way to control its power before it was too late. Eli, now the only one who truly understood the artifact, knew that he had to take the risk. There was no other choice. The Korhans had to be stopped. Aslen. The scientists worked day and night to perfect the control mechanism for the artifact. The Korhans regrouped. They knew that something had changed on Earth. Their most powerful weapons had been disabled, and their forces were no longer invincible. They began to realize that this artifact was the key to humanity's survival, and they would stop at nothing to take it for themselves. Just as the Resistance made their final preparations to deploy the artifact, a Korhan fleet appeared in the sky. They had come to Earth's last stronghold, ready for their final assault. But the Korhans weren't just attacking with their usual weapons. They had learned of the artifact's existence and were prepared to take it by force. Eli and the team had only one chance to use the artifact before the Korhans arrived. If they didn't act fast, the aliens would overpower them, and humanity's last hope would be lost forever. As the Korhan ships descended on the Resistance base, Eli made the decision to activate the artifact one final time. With a trembling hand, he activated the device, and the energy that surged from it was unlike anything they had ever felt. The Korhan fleet was thrown into chaos, their ships suddenly malfunctioning and crashing to the ground. The artifact had disrupted their systems again, but this time it was more powerful than ever. But the cost was greater than anyone could have imagined. The power released by the artifact was destabilizing the Earth's magnetic field. The planet was shaking, and the very core of Earth began to shift. Eli knew that if they didn't stop it soon, the planet would tear itself apart. As the ground cracked and trembled beneath them, Eli and the team raced to shut down the artifact before it was too late. With the Korhans in retreat, the Resistance had bought themselves some time, but the damage had already been done. The artifact had saved them, but it had also set in motion a countdown that would change the fate of the Earth forever. The Korhans had almost won. Earth was on the brink of destruction. After months of intense fighting, humanity's last strongholds were surrounded. The invaders' fleet filled the skies, and their troops marched through cities, crushing any resistance. Earth's military was broken, its leaders scattered, and hope seemed lost. But beneath the surface, a different kind of rebellion was brewing, one that no one expected. Lieutenant Alex Mason was an ordinary soldier in Earth's military, a young officer who had seen more than his fair share of battle. He had lost comrades, watched cities fall, and witnessed the horrors of war. But Alex wasn't like other soldiers. He was starting to question everything. The way Earth's governments had handled the war. The way humanity had been forced to follow the rules of the military without ever questioning the larger decisions. And most of all, he was starting to question his own role in the war. Alex had been raised to believe in the cause, the survival of humanity, the defense of Earth against the alien invaders. But as the war dragged on, he couldn't help but feel that something wasn't right. The Korhans were ruthless, yes, but they weren't the only threat. There were whispers among the Resistance about the leaders of Earth's military, of deals and alliances made in secret, of power struggles that had nothing to do with saving Earth. The deeper Alex dug, the more he uncovered. The military, the government, they were all hiding something. One night, Alex made a decision. He would no longer fight for the leaders who had led humanity into this mess. He couldn't fight for a cause that wasn't what it seemed. And so, against all logic and reason, Alex decided to rebel not against the Kurans, but against the very system that had kept him fighting blindly for so long. He gathered a small group of trusted soldiers, those who, like him, had begun to question everything. They weren't just soldiers, they were thinkers, outcasts, individuals who had seen the flaws in the way humanity had responded to the invasion. Together, they formed a secret group operating from the shadows. They called themselves the Rebels Within. Their mission was simple: expose the corruption, sabotage the system from within, and find a way to end the war on their own terms. Alex knew this was a dangerous path. The Korahans were not the only enemy now. If their rebellion was discovered, they would be branded as traitors. The full force of Earth's military would be turned against them, and their lives would be forfeit. But Alex didn't care. He had already lost too much. What was the point of winning a war if it meant losing everything else that mattered? As Alex and his team worked in secrecy, they began to uncover disturbing truths. Earth's military leaders had been making deals with the Korans. There were covert meetings, hidden exchanges of information. Some leaders had even been secretly negotiating with the aliens for personal power, promising Earth's surrender in exchange for control over parts of the planet. The very people who had been entrusted with humanity's survival had betrayed them. The more Alex learned, the more disgusted he became. He had been trained to fight for a cause, but that cause no longer existed. The war wasn't about survival, it was about power. The Korans weren't the only ones who were exploiting humanity. Their own government had been manipulating them all along. Alex began to share this information with his fellow soldiers. A growing sense of urgency spread among them. They knew they had to act fast. The Korans were preparing for a final assault on Earth's last stronghold. If the rebels could expose the truth before then, they might be able to turn the tide of the war. But their window of opportunity was closing fast. One night, Alex and his team infiltrated a secret military base on the outskirts of the capital. They had learned that a high-ranking officer, General Harris, was involved in the negotiations with the Korans. If they could capture him and extract the truth from him. But the mission was dangerous. The base was heavily guarded, and the Korans were already moving in for their final attack. As Alex and his team made their way through the base, a sense of tension filled the air. Every step could be their last. They had planned this operation for weeks, but they didn't know what to expect. The base was crawling with soldiers loyal to the government, and they would not hesitate to kill anyone who dared to challenge the status quo. When they finally reached General Harris's office, they found him in a meeting with several Koran officers. The two sides were discussing terms for Earth's surrender. The sight of it was enough to make Alex's blood boil. This was the moment, the truth they had been fighting for. But just as Alex prepared to confront Harris, something unexpected happened. The Korans turned on their human allies. In a sudden move, the aliens attacked, killing the officers in the room, including General Harris. The betrayal was not just on Earth's side. It had been part of the Koran's strategy all along. They had used the corrupt leaders to manipulate humanity, and now they were disposing of them. The scene that unfolded was chaotic. Alex and his team fought to escape the base as the Korans turned their weapons on the remaining humans. They had no time to process what had just happened. The world they knew had just been shattered. The enemy they were fighting wasn't just the Korans, it was the entire system that had brought them to this point. In the days that followed, the world began to change. Alex and his team became symbols of resistance, not just against the Korans, but against the corrupt forces that had betrayed humanity. The rebels within were no longer a secret. Their story spread across the globe, inspiring people to rise up against the corrupt government and fight for their future. But the real battle had just begun. The Korans may have been defeated, but the true enemy was still out there, the one that lived within. Alex knew that the war was far from over, but he also knew that humanity had one thing the Korans could never understand: the ability to rise from within and fight for what was right. The countdown to Earth's destruction had begun. For months, the Korans had been relentless. Their fleet hovered over Earth, their weapons ready to rain destruction down on the planet. Humanity had fought with all its might, but the aliens were simply too powerful. Earth's cities had fallen one by one, and the last remaining stronghold was in danger of being obliterated. The final hour was upon them. But in the heart of the resistance, there was one last hope, a secret weapon that could change everything. This weapon, hidden away deep within an abandoned research facility, had the power to turn the tide of the war. However, no one knew exactly how it worked. Only a few had seen it, and even fewer understood its true potential. As the Kuran fleet drew closer, the resistance leaders knew they had to act quickly. Time was running out. Major Sarah Hayes, leader of the Earth Resistance, stood in the command center, watching as the alien fleet advanced. Her heart raced. She had witnessed the fall of her comrades, the destruction of her world, and the brutal tactics the Kurans had used to break humanity's spirit. But there was no time for grief. The final battle was coming, and she would lead her people into it, no matter the cost. The Resistance's best engineers and scientists had been working around the clock to unlock the secrets of the hidden weapon, but progress was slow. The artifact, as they called it, was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It wasn't a simple weapon, it was a puzzle, an enigma that seemed to defy all logic. Major Hayes knew that they had only one chance. If they couldn't figure out how to use it, Earth would fall. The clock ticked closer to the final hour. Sarah's thoughts were interrupted by a voice from the shadows. It was Eli Carter, a brilliant young scientist who had been part of the team trying to unlock the weapon's secrets. He had come to the command center with an urgent message. "We've got it," Eli said, his eyes wide with excitement. "I think we figured it out. The artifact, it's not just a weapon, it's a portal." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. A portal? To where? And how could this possibly help them? Eli continued, "It's a portal to another dimension, a place where the Kurans can't reach us. It's the key to surviving this war. But we don't have much time. We have to activate it before the Kurans reach us. Once they do, the whole planet will be destroyed." Sarah's mind raced. Could this truly be their salvation? A portal to another dimension? It seemed too good to be true, yet the urgency in Eli's voice told her there was no time for doubt. She knew that this was humanity's last chance. Without hesitation, Sarah ordered the team to prepare for the activation of the artifact. The portal had to be opened, and it had to be opened now. She led the team to the underground facility where the artifact was being held, hoping against hope that they were not too late. As they entered the facility, Sarah felt a wave of unease wash over her. The air was thick with tension, and the silence was deafening. The artifact, glowing faintly in the center of the room, seemed to hum with energy. It looked like nothing Sarah had ever seen, an intricate, alien structure covered in strange symbols that pulsed with an otherworldly light. Eli and his team worked quickly to prepare the machine for activation. The countdown continued on the screen, ticking away relentlessly. Every second felt like an eternity. Sarah stood with her team, watching as they made the final adjustments. Just as the final sequence was about to begin, a warning alarm sounded. The Korhan fleet had arrived. Their massive ships loomed overhead, ready to unleash destruction. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. If they didn't act now, they would lose everything. "Activate the portal," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the roar of the alarms. Eli nodded, pressing a sequence of buttons on the control panel. The artifact began to glow brighter, its hum intensifying. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening crack, the air around the artifact seemed to tear open. A swirling vortex of energy appeared in the center of the room. It was a portal, just as Eli had said, an escape route to another dimension, a place where the Korans could never follow. But as the portal opened, the ground beneath them shook. The Korhans had begun their attack, and their weapons were targeting the facility. Missiles exploded nearby, sending shockwaves through the walls. The portal flickered, unstable, as if it might collapse at any moment. "We need to move," Sarah shouted. Now, the team rushed toward the portal, knowing that if they didn't make it through, the Korans would destroy them. But as they approached the vortex, something unexpected happened. The artifact, already unstable, began to pulse wildly. Its energy was growing, its power increasing exponentially. "We can't wait any longer," Eli screamed. The portal will collapse if we don't act now. Without hesitation, Sarah turned to face her team. There was no time for fear, no time for doubt. They had to take a leap of faith. She pushed them toward the portal, one by one, watching as each person stepped into the unknown. But when Sarah stepped through last, the portal flickered. For a moment, she was caught between dimensions, her body trembling as if being pulled in two directions at once. Then, with a final surge of energy, the portal snapped shut. Sarah opened her eyes to find herself in a completely unfamiliar world. The landscape was unlike anything she had ever seen, barren, desolate, and eerily silent. She turned to see the others, but they were gone. The portal had split them up, scattering them across the new dimension. The battle was not over. The Korans might not have followed them, but the real fight was just beginning. Sarah knew that this new world held its own dangers. The portal had been their last chance, but now they had to survive in an alien world and find a way to bring the rest of humanity through before it was too late.